back to NIO Swift MUD, a tutorial series where we're creating a multi-user dungeon game using the Swift programming language and the NIO framework. And today is another small cleanup session for this project. And it's something I like to do every once in a while to, as projects grow, it becomes more difficult to find stuff, and organization of your project is quite important. So let's start with the folder structure, because we now have each and every single Swift file in this single folder. I want to create a few subfolders for the parts that are really more server related, and other ones that are more game or model related. So let's start with creating a new folder for server stuff, and this one will have all our handlers in it. So we'll have the echo handler, parse handler, response handler, and session handler, and verb handler in this one. Then we have the ones that are game related but not specifically related to this specific server. I mean, the room and the user and the verb could also work, for instance, in a regular macOS application. So I'll put this one there, as well as the hasher. And that's enough for the for reorganizing the existing files. So that's folder structure done. Then I want to start taking out a couple of types into separate Swift files. For instance, we have the user.swift file that defines our user data type, but it also defines backend storage, and I think that's really that's confusing. So what I want to do is I want to create a new Swift file specifically for that awesome DB, and then just take out everything that's related to that, cut, save, and paste into a separate file. This hasn't changed the game in any way, it just changes the organization. And something similar I want to do in the session handler. We also have our session storage. I think the session handler should only be concerned with manipulating these sessions, not with the actual storage. And also we're also calling the session storage from other places, like in the response handler, so it's confusing to have it in another handlers file. So what I will do is I'll create a new Swift file here called session storage, and I'll just take the session handler, the definition of a session, and let's create move that to the storage file. We'll take the entire class definition, put that here as well, and this should still simply build. If we add the correct dependencies. So functionally nothing changed, it's just a bit of organization. So we did this for the awesome DB and the session storage. And the final one that I want to improve a bit is our parse handler, because channel handlers in NIO are supposed to be really simple and be very clear about what to do, and I think this one just has too much code in it already, and also the switch statement is getting longer and will become longer and longer. So what I want to do is I want to create a file with lots of helper functions that answer all these, that create all these responses. So that we can simply, when we do create user, we can simply call a function. So let's create a new file, and it exists somewhere between the server and the model, and I'll call it the MUD helper functions. And the first one that's going in there will be this one, because it's already nice and separated out. So this one is going in here. Then I want to carve out all these switch statements into a separate function, and I'll call it, it'll be a private function called create MUD response, and it will take a verb command and it will return a MUD response. This will be an asynchronous function, and it will contain most of all this. This also makes it a bit easier. We don't no longer need this else statement here. We can just bring this one back, return the response here, and now put this into a return statement here. I think a guard statement is even nicer, because then it's very clear that going through to this is the happy, the more or less standard or happy path. We either have a player ID that's not nil, or we don't require a login. So we're basically converting, changing it around. So if our required login is false, and then we go through. If we have a player ID, we go through. However, if this one is true and this one is false, then we get this message back. And now we can say let response be await create MUD response from our verb command. This too should still be still simply compile and be functionally the same. So now let's carve out a couple more of the helper functions. I think we should start with the create user and the login, because those two are already multiple lines. So we'll have a helper functions, and we'll say have a func create a user that takes a session, a user, a name and a password. It'll be an asynchronous function that returns a MUD response, and then we'll go to the parse handler, and I think all we need to do is take this okay, and then we can change this one to response equals await create user for updated session, our username and a passwords. And we can do something similar for this one. So we'll copy paste a bit of this code, because it's more, will look quite a lot the same. It's just this one that will be different. And then we have a pass handler, and we say our response equals await login, username and password. Let's try running this. Okay, so it compiles, it runs. Let's log in. We can still log in, we can still look around. Can we still close? Yeah, we can still close. We can also still create a user, a second user. We are still in limbo. Can we still enter illegal commands? Sure. Can we still have too few words? Well, seems to work. So let's close. I think this is enough cleanup for now. I'll push these changes to the Git repository, and then next time we will start working on movement, so then our player can move from one room to the other. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.